Okay, Matt, what would we
That's
need
me.
to know about you to understand the person that you've become today?
That's a really good question. I was afraid of that question, actually. Cause really? Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
you knew that one was coming?
Yeah, well, that's the first one you asked my dad, too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest. Like, I've kind of never known what was going on in my life, which I feel like isn't that uncommon of a sentiment, but I like if you asked, I think it was in like early elementary school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I think I wrote like a dad or something like that.
Aww.
Which is legitimate, but hard to make money. Just, they're not going to pay you. You know? So
I don't know. Lara could be your sugar mama. It could happen.
it could. I would be so happy as a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah, that's adorable.
But I also like making money. I think that's kind of my hobby right now. I have many hobbies, but yeah. So what do you need to know to understand me? I think I'm just constantly trying to figure that out myself. Just like reevaluating reality as much as possible and seeing how I work in its context. So yeah.
With the intent of figuring out what you want to be.
Yeah. Because whenever someone asks me a question, like, I don't know, just in simple conversation, they ask you something about yourself. There are times when I just say whatever comes to my mind, and later on I'm like, that was a complete lie. That's not at all how I am or what I like. But under pressure, I'm just like, I don't know.
I know you're talking
Macaroni.
about sometimes, like, yeah, like, I hate even admitting that it was a lie, because, like, socially, I feel like any culture that you're in, nobody likes a liar, because
No.
it's like you can't work with that person.
Right.
And
It's inconsistent.
so, like, anytime I see any amount of deceit or untrustworthiness, if that's a word,
Yeah, definitely.
in myself, it's not, like, it's kind of taboo to say I'm dishonest.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to really say that, but, like, that could be something that you're struggling with. And at times, frankly, it's been something that I feel I struggle with in different ways,
Definitely.
And we all do, frankly.
It's a human thing, right? But I think it's also helped me be more honest, too. Because now I notice this,
just
noticing this tendency in myself. Yeah,
like kind of like shadow work.
Yeah, shadow work for sure. But then, shadow work. I just am more conscious of being totally honest. So I guess that's a good thing to know about me is I do my best to be as honest as I can all the time.
Brave,
Clifty?
Brave, thrifty, clean, and honest.
Reverent, yeah.
It's the
thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent.
The scout
motto.
motto.
The scout motto, yeah.
Wait, are you an Eagle Scout?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's why you're
He's like,
and that's why
me.
that's why I almost remembered it, because I was a Life Scout,
There you
2
go.
merit badges away, and a Scout project.
Yeah,
Close.
They say you're never, because people will say I was an Eagle Scout. They're like, no, you are an Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
So I'll say you are a Life Scout.
I'm a Life Scout.
You've achieved that as who. Yeah,
The heart. But the Eagle's so much more epic. I want the Eagle. Anyways, this is not about me. It's
Is
about
it
you.
too late? Is there an age limit?
Yes, there is.
18 is
18 is
adult
it for
It's
the
Boy Scouts. Come on.
All right.
It's
all right.
actually
It's not
just Scouts.
adult Scouts.
It's just Scouts.
It's not
now.
Girl Scouts. Well, I guess now it's just Scouts.
Yeah.
So I can't.
It's anybody scouts.
Yeah. No, I did have a good time though.
Wait, so can
in Boy
18-year-olds
Scouts.
be? Is that still a limit?
Yeah. You age
I
out at 18, and then there's Venture Crew that you can go
just
to.
check it.
Yeah, but that was a lot of fun. So I did Boy Scouts. I think that was really formative. That's kind of one of my hot takes too.
What?
That's a little controversial. That I think there's a lot of good to have an only boys and only girls thing.
Really?
Yeah. Because boys are weird, nasty, and like this is and girls will like be like, ugh.
Yeah.
And so I think boys need a place where they can go and like kind of
be themselves.
Yeah, because you have to be able to explore yourself honestly if you're going to find out who you are.
Like you were
Yeah.
saying with the honesty.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then they can like push the limits of that. Ooh, to see what the like boy
Boundaries
limit
are.
is, you know, because
Yeah.
if you don't want to be the boy that's the most amongst all the boys, you know, so you kind of rein it back in a little.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's-
Whereas
it's-
if it's just girls giving you that, you're like, eh.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good
Well, not
point.
only that, I think you get afraid too. Like you fear the judgment of girls because you want
for sure.
them to like you, right? Especially when you're starting to figure out like, oh, I like girls or not, whatever. But so and you know that's some of the nuance and why it's a hot take. But by and large, it's just kind of free of judgment. You can go develop yourself.
So like, let's talk about the differences between male and female.
Oh boy, no,
Let's
let's not. 'Cause that's
I'm wondering, do you think that the root of you, like when people are asking you about yourself, just saying something is because you want to say something that they will like?
Yeah.
Or, okay. And do you think that's
please them.
motivated by like the expectation that you will know what you like? Kind of just like how they ask little kids what you want to be when you grow up and that it's expected that you have an answer. And,
Right. Yeah. Given my perspective of just this house and I'm 3, I have no idea what I want to
Right.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
Do you feel like the root of you saying something that wasn't 100% true in situations like that was because you wanted to give them an answer that would please them? Or was it more so because you wanted to meet the expectation that you would even have an answer at all?
Probably both. Because I think it's kind of the same thing, too. It's like this person's asking me something. 1, I want them to like me. 2, if they're asking me this question, then, oh, it must be normal to have an answer. So I'm just going to say something and, you know, go.
To a degree,
Yeah.
isn't that what you kind of have to do as a kid? You just have to say something, and then
Yeah,
after a
just to-
while, you'll like figure it out that's, oh, I don't actually want to be a plumber. I'll say something else next time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's I think,
Is
on
that
the
a
journey
lie,
of-
or is that just
My grandpa's a plumber.
Fake it
and
till
it's
you
a
make it.
respectable job. Dude, you take that back.
no.
Yeah, well, not everybody likes it though. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
right.
plumbing is awesome for some people, but if
Right.
Brenda. Not really plumbing, but I'm just saying, like, it's a similar thing. Like, not everybody a lot of people don't want to do it, but for those who are willing to do
Oh, yeah.
it can be very lucrative.
And it's necessary,
monetarily or other ways.
Yeah, but I mean, you think about, we're getting a little on a tangent here, but specifically plumbing, because I do maintenance, and so I think about this type of thing. The real difference between our day-to-day life and the day-to-day life of somebody in like a developing nation or something like that is our ability to manage water and waste.
Wow, that's so true.
Right.
That is so true.
Yeah, so we've figured out these, you know, really sophisticated systems to get water safely into a home in a way that it will not cause mold and decay, and then to use it and get it out away from the home so that it won't fester and, you know, make a nasty bog in your backyard.
That's so true.
Yeah, kind of cool. So
Yeah.
plumbers, highly respectable.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing that we can, I don't know if we want to dip our toes into this controversial subject, but
Controversy!
I don't know, never mind.
Which one?
Around the same time that vaccines were becoming popular was around the same time that they were figuring out better systems for managing water. So it kind of muddies the water in terms of infectious disease a little bit, measuring how effective vaccines were.
Interesting.
I never actually heard of that.
Yeah,
factor.
it's a thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many variables, and what interests me is immunology is like one of the most infant sciences. It's like
That is actually still affecting our day-to-day life.
it's like it's one of the more recent ones, like pretty new. And as far as like how well we understand it, we don't understand. You know, like
I think that's a lot of things.
yeah, it
Like,
is.
Yeah.
Especially
Like,
like the brain.
Yeah, because I mean, think about this. The way that we started this conversation, do I understand myself? No. Now, if I don't understand myself and how I interact with the world, can I understand the world if I only have myself to interact with it through?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Let alone complicated systems of other people who each have their own different life experience.
Like it's a limb of you now. You know, have that. Yeah.
Okay. That's why I hate sports where you have to have like a racket or a
You'll get used
baseball.
to it,
Like I'd
yeah.
much rather just like climb the thing or.
No, I'm the same parkour versus like skateboarding, which you do. You used to. I just always felt so sketch with the skateboard underneath my board compared to. They're both dangerous sports, or they can be. Yeah. You don't take the proper precautions. So much more comfortable with just like a little bit of rubber under my feet compared to that plus a board and wheels.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, I would longboard. I'd just go down hills and
Longboarding is so fun.
It's super fun.
He knows firsthand how dangerous it is.
Yeah, I broke my wrist and my ankle in a collision. Yeah,
at the same time.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so my friend and I were at this park, and I guess there are two ways to go on this longboarding trail, but it was really popular for longboarders. So we walked up. What
is this in Michigan? I'm assuming. Yeah,
it's apparently the back of the trail, and what everybody was telling us about was this really nice long scenic thing through the woods. But we instead went up. It's like a really fast turn at a really steep angle, and then it goes back, and then there's a chain gate out to the road, and then it turns at like 45 degrees back towards the park. And so we were like, yeah, we'll do this. There are like signs and stuff.
What could go wrong?
Right. Yeah, so I followed my friend down, and I think we took a picture of the sign that said caution turn or something, or hill or something like that.
Before you did it?
Yeah, we were like, oh, look at this. Yeah. So he goes down, I come around the corner, I see him in the road, just like, bleh. He's all cut up and stuff, and I start to get the speed wobbles on my board. No. And so I like jump off towards what was a hill, but it was softer than the concrete, which I thought would be a good thing. But there was a culvert there that I saw as I rose into the air, and this was like in slow motion for me. So my heel clipped the side of the culvert, and then I fell end over end down the hill, which broke my ankle on impact with the culvert, broke my wrist on the impact with the hill.
So like not long, like boom, boom.
Yeah.
Pain.
It was immediate. Yeah, but I didn't think I was in. I thought I was just like hurt. I got up and I was like, "Oh, cool, no cuts or anything."
So I went. Adrenaline stuff was like you didn't feel it. It wasn't like it was like that was painful.
No.
Yeah, I'm always interested.
Yeah, but then my hand. I was trying to patch my friend up because I had a first aid kit with me, for this reason. But I like couldn't. It was weird because I couldn't grab the tape to rip it. And yeah, it took me a little bit. No, that's not what I knew. I just thought I was hurt. And then a couple days later, I went to the ER to get x-rays and stuff.
The idea of like not having the proper like pain sensors, I forgot what they're called, but like, you know, some people have that as a neurological disorder, so like they're at risk of not noticing that their hand's on a hot stove or something. Yeah. But the idea of like melting your hand but not even knowing that it's happening, like just makes me cringe.
Yeah, I do have a sense of that too because I had an accident. My left hand has been through a lot, but I got stabbed one time.
Dude, my left wrist is the one that always hurts.
Yeah,
but that's because I always like sleep on it like this,
and then
I tickle my wife while she's driving. She'll slap my hand, you know. I'm like, ow, my wrist, you know.
You're slowly breaking his wrist.
Such a common occurrence.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. He tickles my side. I'm like,
oh, so you ask for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's funny because it's like clearly like it was my fault, you know. Right. I'm like, ow, you hurt my wrist. You know?
Gotcha. Yeah, a little bit of the. Like gaslighting comedy.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Is that comedy?
I don't know if that's gaslighting comedy, but yeah.
I mean, it is.
I guess.
Ow, dude, why'd you hurt my fingers? Bro, what the heck?
I guess
that's gaslighting.
That's true.
Like a really dumb level, but yeah.
Mind games, I've always been interested in psychology.
Yeah, mind games are fun.
Definitely. Yeah, they are.
I do like that. Yeah. My dad and I have the same kind of sense of humor.
Like trickster.
Yeah, kind of.
I go downstairs in your studio, which is sick. You got this nice. What's that animal on the ground?
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yeah. It's nice. I think it was from Yellowstone.
And then you got a card that says Joker, and that's just you.
Oh yeah, it is a Joker playing card.
Would you? Would you identify as a Joker?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
definitely. So. Yeah, that's I'm like very, and I like Jordan Peterson talks about the archetype of the fool a lot, and I really identify with that because since I don't know what I'm doing or what I want, I'm just kind of trying things out, and it looks like I don't know what I'm doing. But what it is me slowly learning what I'm doing.
Exactly, because that's how you get good. Everybody starts off bad.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
And if you're going to get good at everything, you're going to be a fool at everything first.
Yeah. Yeah, but now I'm learning that I know enough, I think, and I need to start now refining it. right? So that I can, because Laura's a really cool counterexample for me as a person. She has focused on plants, basically, and a lot more than that, I guess, just kind of growing things.
But she's kind of like said no to a lot of things.
Well, you have to, yeah.
To grow her one thing more.
Yes. And then through that, there's so much available to her that she can now, because she's a writer for a seed catalog. But you can do landscaping, you can do soil science, you can do integrated pest management. There's so much that you can do within a niche. But my problem is like I get curious about a niche. I know
It's hard
you
for
get
you
this
to get
too,
deep
probably.
enough.
Each
in
niche
one.
is its own world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I get a nice little
Surface level.
Yeah, surface level understanding of things. And I'm like, okay, well, now I feel like I understand this well enough, and I'm just going to go do something else. Which is why I spent like 6 years in college and came out with a general associates.
Yeah. It's not like you're not a smart guy. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
some people will look at that and be like, is he dumb?
Right.
You know, and I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, people judge. It's hard not to, and for me personally, I deal with self-image issues. So, and I feel like I'm hardest on myself. Everybody has to deal with worrying about how other people perceive them. That's just the human
It's a
social
factor
thing.
of life, yeah.
But like, what am I getting at? I don't even know.
Okay. Yeah, but the way that I've kind of tried to combat that is just to try and understand everything that I'm encountering. So if, I do maintenance, right? And sometimes I'll go in and I'm not really like high maintenance. Like I don't do any serious electricity or plumbing or HVAC
Is that
work.
technically what it is? Like high maintenance is...
That's what I call it. I'm just kind of...
But is that like what people... Because I've only thought of high maintenance as like, oh, she's so high maintenance.
Oh, that's a good point. I literally just made that up. So, but not in like trades.
I gotcha.
I'm not a tradesman necessarily.
yeah.
But I like to troubleshoot things, which is really just coming to an understanding of this system. Like if it's a faucet that isn't working right, I like to... You just kind of come to an understanding of it. And so in order to do that, and the way that I try to live my life is just to see things as they are as clearly as possible so that I can interact with the world in as appropriate a way as I can. And so that comes to people too, knowing how I can interact with them in a way that will be both beneficial for both of us.
You look at
just anything.
people as parts of a machine in that way. And like to function, you want to know how your cog is going to turn to...
Yeah, in a more emotional way. But
Yeah,
yes,
of course.
Yeah. The gears are emotional more than they are mechanical.
Emotions are weird. Let's talk about emotions.
Okay.
What are they?
Yeah. What are they?
What
I don't
are
know.
they?
I think
Yeah,
it's
and
energy.
how do you
Energy?
navigate as an emotional being the world with the intent of seeing the world as clearly as it is?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's been a struggle that I have wondered about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are big questions.
That's one of the key, key goals of Buddhism, isn't it? Like that's why they call it enlightenment.
Yeah.
You just see things as they are.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So Buddhism. I haven't thought about that in like specific terms in a little bit, but
Did you used to like look into Buddhism?
yeah, I would meditate and I like the
So you used to like practice
components of it very lightly. Yeah, very lightly. But the story goes that Siddhartha left his kingdom, or his dad's kingdom because he was a prince, and he sat under a tree for a long time and came to understand the human condition, and the cause for suffering is desire. And so when you look at the world through your desires, then you're superimposing something on top of reality. But that is pretty much what Buddhism is. Because the challenge there is to then understand what you're feeling, understand what's going on,
Come to terms with reality.
and then sit with your emotions long enough to understand what's going on without that as context.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So it's like almost like, I like the way you said your desires are kind of superimposed on reality. And if that's a distorted reality, it's like, it's almost like what we were talking about yesterday. I love how Laura described prayer. It's you doing your best not to have God come in alignment with your will, but the opposite, you to come in alignment with his. And if we're so bent out of shape on our desires, our will, then like we could like just like not live as
You cut yourself off.
from that nirvana state
Yeah.
of like being in alignment with God's will, which is reality,
Right.
which is like I can't control the weather. It is what it is.
Right.
You know, I'm going to focus on what I can do.
That's one of the core understandings for me about who God is a person, or I mean a being that has our best interests in mind. And so he will help us as we pursue him, or the greatest good that we can imagine, as Jordan Peterson would say. And we can trust that when we get there, our desires will be satiated.
Yeah,
we'll
like
be
you
happy
have,
with
you
what
have
we
a
get.
hope for whatever reality is. It's like, you know, seeing it for what it is and abiding it for what it is going to end up, even if it's difficult, that's going to be for the best.
Yeah.
And having a hope that that's the case. I would say
that's faith.
I would say, frankly, that's like faith, but the deepest form of faith, because you could have faith in anything, necessarily has to be in Christ. Because as humans, we don't have any guarantee that there is life after death except through him. And that's the biggest hope that we can have.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting talking about Christ because I am a Christian, right? But my background, I was raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In high school, I kind of went and did my own thing and started exploring. That's when I would read about Buddhism and Taoism and kind of the more Eastern religions, basically as far away from as I could imagine from where I started.
Is that what you think would be the opposite of LDS theology, like Buddhism?
At least at the time I did.
Yeah, it's pretty far. I mean, east to west.
Yeah, right. But so the funny thing about that is that it ultimately helped me understand
The West
more clearly. Yeah, because I need to frame things in a more Western way. I think just for my own temperament. But they don't really have a concept of Christ or like the need for salvation. It's just the path towards enlightenment to escape the cycle of death and rebirth and to live in a state of nirvana. Right.
Yeah.
So even now, I came back to the church that I left. Hey, Sam, now come up. Good boy. What was I saying? Having left and come back. Yeah, I still kind of struggle with the idea that there's a need for redemption.
Really?
Just because it's like not something I can really see.
Tangibly feel, or like it doesn't inherently or intuitively make sense to you.
Right. And the way that the doctrine works, right, is that Christ atoned for everybody. And so now that is a condition for all of humanity to be resurrected, right? Adam fell, we came into this world, Christ died so that we could be saved from it. And then, judgment and everything. But because it's just a precondition of reality, because of what Christ did, then
What is a precondition of reality?
The resurrection.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay. It's you feel its effects without knowing where it comes from.
Yes.
So if you meditate,
So you can't really imagine a world where that's not a possibility,
right,
is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where
yeah.
the resurrection
So
is
it's
a
hard to
precondition for
conceive
reality.
of
Wait,
why it's
wait.
needed because it's already been given.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The
It's-
precondition for reality, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a fish living in a fishbowl. It's in the water, and one fish comes up and is like, "Hey, we should be grateful for our owner for putting this water in the fishbowl." And the fish is like, "What are you talking about? There's always been water in the fishbowl." And I can't conceive of a world without this water. And not die. Oh, sorry. There
Right.
goes Sam. Does that work?
Absolutely. That makes total sense. And that's something that I wondered about. I, for context, was raised in the same church as Matt, but I, in recent years, have really questioned a lot of things and I don't know exactly where I stand right now, but I definitely, for the exact reason that you're talking about, believe in Jesus Christ. And the reason that I believe in Jesus Christ is because in nature we see all around us chains of reactions. You know, some people believe that the universe is just a series of random reactions and that we have no free will, and it's just particles bumping into each other that make us and that make everything and that make me talk to you right now and that are going to make you feel a certain way about it later when you're thinking about it or whatever.
So it's all like it's all cause and effect, and there's no real.
It's all cause and effect, and the only way, and we hurt each other so bad, you know, we just like we bump into each other, we break each other, we break things, and the only way that I can conceive of that not being the case is if something had the power to intervene to like overcome entropy. Entropy is, you know, stuff starting out formed and going into chaos. Like, it's happening around us all the time. The only thing that could stop that is something that had the power over entropy, which would have to be God.
Right.
Which is that's Jesus Christ. Like, that's what Jesus Christ is talking about. It's like, instead of us passing that hurt around, like,
I'll take it.
I'm sad, so I'm going to kick the dog, and the dog's going to bite the cat, and the cat's going to go and scratch somebody. You know, Christ takes it and absorbs it in his suffering for us. So that's at the core of my belief in Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And I should say too, why I am a Christian, even given this, like, I would say kind of like severe lack of understanding, is because there's an undeniable reaction when you talk about and study the life of Christ.
Yeah,
it's not that I need to understand him, but when I do it, talk and think about Christ, there's something there. And the way that I've come to that realization is through meditating and looking for that kind of naturally. And then you find this, really potent power source for it.
Yeah.
So
do you feel it's visceral?
Yeah, it's not nothing.
Even people that aren't Christian, man, they'll know that they're experienced like sleep paralysis or experiences that are kind of demonic. Like, you say the name of Christ, those aliens, those whatever, like, will go away. They won't bother you anymore, whether or not you're like been a faithful Christian up to that point.
Yeah, I kind of exist
it's a
on
thing.
Yeah, I don't know if this makes me like a fence sitter in a cosmic sense or not, but I also like stuff like that. I have trouble with too. I'm a little more atheistic in that way of thinking.
Have you experienced like seeing a ghost?
No, but you know, to what you're saying, I was meditating one time back when I was kind of looking at the church again. And this was after a really spiritual weekend. I was just meditating in my room, and I could feel, you know, you can kind of know what darkness feels like. And you kind of had that energy. And I was like, leave in the name of Jesus Christ. And then I felt it like wind going out of, you know, it wasn't like wind touches you, but it was like a internal and kind of imaginative wind.
Like there was a little vacuum created
and it went away. Yeah. So there, you know, like, what do you do with that information? Right? There's something there, but then people, I think, can get really far down it.
Right.
And it's
misattribute.
It becomes like a, you know, kind of aliens type thing.
No, I feel you're saying like conspiracy theories, this, that. It's like there could be real phenomenon out there, and then people just take it and run with it.
Also, it can breed a spirit of fear. I feel like where they feel like there's an invisible boogeyman around that's out to get them all the time, unless they like cling to this thing or say the certain thing or whatever, which is the opposite of what Jesus wants for us. You know, he hasn't given us a spirit of fear.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a verse in Romans or something, right? Yeah, that's been my biggest thing.
People kind of like getting like a little bit too into, like, I have always had a natural interest in like the occult and dark things. Yeah. And like, I know it's not good.
No, me
but
too,
it's
though.
a little interesting.
It is really interesting. I love symbology, and so I love looking at like what Wiccans use for, and then there's a lot of symbology. We talked about the Orthodox Christian church. They have so many symbols that I think are so interesting. And then in our temples, there's a lot of, like there are stars and suns and the moon. Yeah. But then there's like circles and squares next to, if you look at the entrance to the temple, it says holiness to the Lord, the house of the Lord. A lot of the times there's a circle and a square on either side of that sign, which represents the temple. I think they call it the sunstone or something like that. Check me on that. But, so I love that symbology, and it's fun to look at that in tarot cards and alchemy and
just wherever you find it.
What's archetypes? Yeah, I love that stuff. And I think that even
like made up, like, fantastical, like J.R. Tolkien's.
Yeah, right. I think that is also like, oh man, you've gotten me on the subject.
No, it's all good, bro. It's a
bro. Yeah, sure. But I think that these things all come about, and we talk about these things because we sense that there's something to them.
Like Star Wars, the good versus the evil. Harry Potter. It's like these archetypes, these stories are so popular in pop culture, even secular, for a reason.
Yeah, we're looking for those types of stories. Yeah.
And that's why I feel like I was about to say this earlier. My friend in high school, and his parents weren't religious at all. He wasn't religious at all. But he was interested in investigating the church, and as around that time, he mentioned to me, I think there was that like a Jesus Christ series. This was like a movie, Passion of the Christ, when that came out. This is like 2012-ish, 11. But
it definitely came out before then, so it must have been something else.
I think it was a Bible series on documentary. The documentary show,
like History Channel.
Yeah, but regardless, he just said like, I'm not like a Christian or anything, but I can't deny when people like talk about Christ and like him on the cross and stuff, like I feel something. And that's maybe not word for word what he said, but pretty much it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like he said that in a private moment in the confidence, like just him and me, but like it's a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's not something you can prove to somebody else.
You can't.
Which some people really look for and are,
Yeah. Bible bash, I don't know. People use Christ's name to do their own agenda, and that's priestcraft.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's I think one big thing for me recently has been coming to understand that there is real evil in the world.
Oh yeah.
And that though I have the best of intentions with everybody that I interact with, there are people who have the worst intentions with everybody that they interact with. And so now that I have a son, I'm trying to figure out
how to navigate
for myself. Yeah, how to navigate.
Yeah, dude, that's tough.
Yeah, while not living in fear.
Especially when you're a sensitive
Right.
soul. Because all of us are. I mean, everybody is. Like Laura says, we're like plants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just tender, like soft.
We got to be nurtured. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I need a little bit of water.
Yeah, bro.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sam.
You want me to get? I'll get it for you.
That's another thing that gets me, by the way. Water
Right.
dissolves things,
Yeah.
but it's the universal solvent, but we drink it. And it also makes up our body.
Yeah.
Just the structure of reality is crazy.
Right. Water is so crazy. And it's a symbol for Christ.
Yeah,
For a reason.
Oh, the living waters.
Absolutely.
I think about H2O, oxygen, 2 hydrogens as the Trinity. Is God. Because it's like water. Water is... The more I learn about chemistry... Oh, this is really cool. What was another thing I was thinking about water? Bro, I love
I'm going to
water.
start hating my laugh. I do have a cold. Nobody judge me. But also my laugh is awful.
No, I always feel like I'm the dumbest. Look. It's like,
At least we're not Tucker Carlson. His
Do
laugh
that again.
is brutal.
Well,
I've never really paid much attention to
okay,
it.
man.
I forgot you like doing cartoon
I
voices.
do, I like voices.
So
they're
like
fun.
talking about animation or show some
Wait,
of your...
Well, we
wanted
want to
to
talk
ask him
about the
about the
Trinity.
Trinity.
We only got 15 minutes for this
No!
conversation. That's
Okay.
going to be...
15 minutes for the
Yeah.
nature of reality, folks.
Oh, no!
Yeah, with
So
fitting
that's
in as many cartoon character voices as you can.
In the beginning was the word.
Yeah.
Inning
So-
the beninging.
Basically, as an opener,
Yeah.
what I was talking about with the only person that would have the power to stop that entropy and that chaos and that pain would have to be the person that had the power to create it all.
Or to overcome it all.
Yeah. That is at the root of, me questioning, maybe this idea that God and Christ are separate beings actually is bad. Like a lot of people told me when I was growing up in the church and we said that we believe that they're separate beings.
So why would that be
Maybe in
bad? That's what I'm curious about.
It's like,
Well, and I don't want to cut you off, so if you got more, just keep going. But
yeah, I just, like in order for Christ to really have that power, he would have to be God.
oh, okay.
Yeah, in its simplest sense.
Yeah.
And I know that in the church they say that Christ created the earth under the direction of God, but that would still make Christ like a servant of God, but not God. And the idea of God, the one that actually created and has the power to create and has the power to command and has the power to choose to be Christ completely of his own volition, I just think that's more powerful.
Yeah, that's interesting. To me, I don't think it's...
Is there really a lack of power if it just happens to be the other way?
Well, for one thing, I think Jesus is God.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Well, no.
That's like not Mormon doctrine, so.
No,
Do
but it
explain.
is.
I think
it is.
Yeah. So I had this companion one time who was like real deep into it. And he read the Book of Mormon, every transfer, which was crazy because that's
in the Book
6
of
weeks.
Mormon it is, but not in
Well,
like the
that's a
first
good
vision
point.
and the way we talk about it in the church. I hear people all the time say like, I started in another church and they believed in the Trinity. They believed that Christ was praying to himself. Ridiculous, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's the thing, right? Like, if you read the Bible and you read the Book of Mormon, you can find verses for both.
Right.
There's in the Bible very clear, cut and dry, they are individual beings. But then there's also very cut and dry,
They're one.
they are one.
Right.
Right. And there's and that's in the chapter in the Book of Mormon with Abinadi. In Preaching My Gospel, when I was getting ready for my mission, I was like studying that because that's where it directed me for clarity on the subject. And it's not clear.
Right.
That's what I found.
Exactly.
It isn't. But who are we to say that who God is should
So-
be clear to our mortal brains?
Yeah.
Well, absolutely, and that's why I'm more willing to accept the Trinity when before I would be like, that just doesn't make sense. I'm a person. If I'm going to talk to a person, it has to be a different person,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not like I entirely disagree with that idea. Like, in the same way that I don't think somebody has to believe that the Bible is literal in order to follow Christ. Right. And there are people who are in both camps. It's like,
Yeah.
well, you have to believe it literally or it's purely metaphorical or, but I think that they can coexist because it's so unclear. But
But the
then we
church
get
has
in-
made it not unclear.
yeah. So we get into the territory with Joseph Smith seeing them as
Yeah.
separate beings.
Yeah.
So, but then if we're getting into where like what an all powerful being is capable of, like,
Oh,
he
for
can
sure.
appear as two people.
Yeah.
For sure. Right. So
Is it the
Like-
church's job to make it clear to us when, again, the nature of God is a big question and it's a big journey?
Yeah,
and
but that's
and-
not what they say.
yeah.
They don't
Can I
say.
finish, please?
Yeah. Okay, I'm listening.
If a math teacher just gives the students the answers to like a complicated algebra or calculus problem, yeah, they have the right answer, but they don't know how to do the problem. The problem and learning how to do that process is a lot more important than just clearly giving the answer.
I feel you on that, but I don't think that's how the church has approached it, and that's where I question the validity of the church.
What are we talking about?
That's
So we're talking about the validity of the church or the Godhead?
I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The one of the main things that has like made me much more skeptical of the validity of the church is their
Of Jesus
stance on
Christ
the
alone, you're
Godhead.
saying.
Yeah.
And it is a really strong stance too. It's not they're not like, well,
Yeah.
there's room for nuance here.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
like,
It's
no.
not like, please figure it out on your own. They're like, this is one of the things that makes our church different. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's exactly why I'm looking at other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I've kind of gotten to this place where I separate the church from living the gospel because an organization, and this is the danger that, not the danger, but this is the state of affairs when Christ came into the picture in the Bible, right? They were overly dogmatic, down to counting how many steps you could take on the Sabbath, and Christ came and was like, don't do that. That's not what the point of this whole thing is. And so I think that there's a little bit of a danger in the church. Maybe we're moving in that direction where you need to believe and if you don't believe it, just hold to it, and then you'll believe it eventually. I don't really think that makes sense, especially in light of the invitation to study things out for yourself, think it through, and then pray and ask God. Because
That's the struggling through the math, the algebra.
For sure. I
Yeah.
totally agree with
And
you.
so I think it does apply in a way that they wouldn't say that it does, or maybe they don't feel like it does, right?
It's for us to figure out.
Yeah.
It's our
At that
journey.
point, if you're in the church, but you are, holding yourself back from truly following like the letter of the law of the church, what is the point of the church?
Right. Wait, so I need to break that down because I
Yeah.
don't think I understood it.
Okay.
If you're in the church, but you're living the letter of the law of the church
You're not living it.
okay, so if you're in the church, but you're not living the letter of the
Yeah,
law.
because the letter of the law of the church would be follow the prophet, would be this is the nature of the Godhead, would be these things always stay in the church. Leaving the church is dangerous when you've said that was actually helpful for you and beneficial for you for a time. At that point, it's like, what is the point of the church if you're choosing to do these things counter to the church? And the whole point of the church is to help you know what to do to get to God.
Yeah.
And those things were actually kind of in the way.
So there's I think a multiple purpose for the church.
It's a great question too.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's something that I've thought a little bit about. One purpose of the church is to hold those things as like rigid, to preserve
For continuity.
Yeah. Right. But then the other is to allow for a meeting place of people who are actively seeking truth.
Yeah.
And I think we get away from that a little bit when we do hold things that tightly. So I think the church is making statements that it is holding as true. And we don't have to believe those things as we're exploring their validity. And the church, I think, at its like most ideal, is just a place for us to come and seek higher learning.
Yeah.
And progress on the path of truth.
That's it.
And
So why do you
questions-
choose
yeah.
this particular church instead of any Christian church?
I love the organization of it. So when I look
Order.
at
God is a God of order.
yeah, definitely,
And there is
yeah.
organization in the church.
Absolutely. When I look at entrepreneurial churches, which I really don't have a problem with by and large, a lot of good people doing a lot of good stuff.
Like mega churches type of thing. Like
Yeah, mega churches is
What
at
do you
a
mean
high
entrep-
scale of
yeah.
it, but
Just
then
the kind of thing where it's the pastor's salary is paid by
yeah, which
Sure.
by the way is
Well,
unique to our church because
we
the
don't have
clergymen
that.
don't get paid.
yeah,
unless you get high up enough.
stipends and stuff
Yeah.
for yeah.
But I mean, yeah,
It's
the prophet
relatively, like-
he was a heart surgeon before, so he'd
It's relatively
be a
nothing.
lot more wealthy if he did other things.
Yeah,
but
so
go
there's
ahead.
nuance in there,
Yeah.
right? But the bishop of the local ward is not getting a paycheck, which if I feel called to the work as a Lutheran or a Christian Reformer or anything, I can go and you can become an ordained minister. You go to school, you know, it's a lot of work, but people do that at their own expense. So they go into debt and it's, it's something that
It's a
they're
job.
really convicted for. They have a lot of conviction for it. But And so they do a lot of good maybe in their community, and people come, and then they start making a living off of this because you need to live in order to have this service for people to come to. So I get why it is the way that it is. But what I love about our church is that it's so strong. Like, when you think of this world in terms of countries, right? There's governments that don't get along, and there's all this stuff, but the church exists in all of those countries and is preaching the same message. So I love that, for one thing, for like a worldwide unity. But then also there's a lot more good that we can do as members pool their money to, disaster relief or tithing, which helps the stuff run. And there's not to say that there isn't corruption within the church, because it is an institution of men, which sucks. But
is to be expected in any church.
Definitely. But
Any church.
That's part of the reason.
There are men.
Anything where there's people.
Community.
Families.
Anywhere.
But that's one of the reasons I want to stay in it, is because then I can be a whistleblower and I can work for its good. So that's a sidebar. But the reason that I like the church is because I think it's strong enough and big enough to make a real change in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
and
great.
all the
Those
way
are
down
great
to
reasons.
a community level.
Beautiful. While we're on the topic, because there's going to be people listening who are involved in this conversation, what are some of the things, if any, that you think should be whistleblown?
Well, anytime you hear about somebody, like as a bishop, if somebody comes in and talks to you about hurting people, molesting children, anything like that, embezzling, anything, it's cool to work through it with them with the love of Christ, because he does still love them. But there's also
legally there are
consequences for that.
Yeah.
And so if I'm a bishop and I hear something like that, I want to have not even have to think about it and say, hey, thank you so much for bringing this up to me. But to keep everybody safe, we have to take steps to, go through a legal process here, which is hard because they're not going to want to hear that.
Yeah.
But that's
if
what
the
you got to
church
do.
policy to bishops is that you call a church hotline first? Because that is the policy.
Yeah. So again, and this might make me never become a bishop, but I'll call the church hotline. But if it's true that you need to follow your conscience, then I will follow my conscience, regardless of what the person on the other line says to me, if it is in direct conflict with how I, who I believe I am and what I need to do.
The bishop is supposed to be the one with the keys to make that decision anyways, the one with the stewardship.
Yeah. If somebody
And you
on a
don't have to
hotline
believe
is-
it, but like if we're going to talk about what it is, let's at least like entertain the idea clearly.
But that's why I can't leave the church. I feel too much responsibility for this organization, because when I think about the body of Christ, and if I view it in that context, we get a lot wrong, right? We don't know where his toes are.
That's great, dude. I love that.
But I want to be an active part in making it a safe space and in making it a place where you can come and develop your character into the fullness of the measure of the stature of Christ. I love that.
That's beautiful. Man, thank you so much. I wish we had longer
let's
to talk.
about it again.
You're going to be a recurring guest just
more
like Laura.
questions.
So.
I really appreciate your answers, and I think I respect your reasons a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I've really thought through them. So.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts or things that you'd like to shout out?
There's a quote by Aristotle. Stop thinking, it says, stop arguing about what makes a good man. Be one. And I don't think that's Aristotle anymore, but it might be another Stoic, Marcus Aurelius.
Oh, yeah. Probably. That sounds stoic. Yeah.
Cool. So that's what I shout out
Beautiful.
to Marcus.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, man. I love you, brother.
I have to pee so bad.
Hey, man, that was beautiful. You're sharing, powerful stuff because it was true to you.
Thanks.
That alone is powerful.
Thanks.
I hope you're not late for work. It seems like...
No, I'll be fine. Yeah,
That's great, dude. That's great. Isn't it?
Yeah.